Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk about Fernando Padilla versus Kyle Nelson. Padilla is 26 years old, 15-4 as a pro, and he's got 2 inches of height and 5 inches of reach over 32-year-old Nelson, who is 14-5-1. Padilla is very dangerous, 13 finishes in his 15 wins, 5 via knockout or TKO, 8 via submission. He is a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu guy with Eddie Bravo, whatever, which means he is a flat earther. No, but it means he's very crafty on the ground, and he has never been finished. His 4 losses all come via decision. He lost to Spike Carlisle, former UFC fighter, Dan Ige, current UFC contender, this guy Kurt Kinzer, and this guy Taliesin Soares, I think, or Costa. But he's a guy that can be neutralized on the ground. Dan Ige beat him by taking him to the ground repeatedly and stuffing his guard, holding him down. Dan Ige, as you might imagine, is pretty tough to dominate anywhere, really, but he was able to navigate the reach advantage of Fernando Padilla very well and hit some well-timed takedowns in the center of the octagon or the cage or whatever the fuck they were in, and win that fight, stuffing him on the ground. This guy Taliesin Soares beat him also by taking him down, but he's the one guy I've seen that actually went through the jiu-jitsu of Fernando Padilla. He was mounting Fernando Padilla in every round and dominated him. He dominated a pure jiu-jitsu battle. Got him mounted every round, put him in an arm triangle choke pretty tight in round 2, took his back for a good portion. That was one that was just a bad matchup, and Padilla's jiu-jitsu wasn't there for him. But it was there for him, the fact that he survived, and he's never been finished in all 4 of his losses, which is a good trait to have. And he's pretty crafty himself, and also dangerous on the feet as well. He's got 5 TKOs, and we saw him go through Julian Erosa. Erosa is one of the more questionable guys as far as durability goes. He's an excellent fighter and can beat anybody with pure offense, but he can be beaten by anybody. And Fernando Padilla cracked him. Well, hit him with a beautiful combination anyway. But still, he's dangerous enough. He may not have the hardest single punch. He's not going to win the overhand right contest, but he's dangerous. He knocked out this guy Cameron Graves with a mean elbow after some nice clinch work. But mainly his biggest danger is on the ground, Fernando Padilla, with that 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. But on the feet, he's got 2 inches of height and 5 inches of reach in this matchup, and he's no slouch at all on the feet. I think he's got a chance of duplicating the success of Jai Herbert that he had against Kyle Nelson. Both guys are big, long, tall guys, and Padilla will definitely have an easier time reaching the chin of Kyle Nelson, especially when they're both fresh and haven't eaten leg kicks, which I do think could be a vulnerability for Fernando Padilla. He had a split decision win over Nate Richardson, who's a solid journeyman, who's never probably going to make it, but he's a good fighter. And that was a split decision that Nate Richardson really found a lot of success chewing up that leg. He beat up his leg, and the whole fight was pretty much fought at range. And Padilla won a decision after dropping him, really. I guess that was the key moment after it was all said and done, by dropping him with a jab. Wasn't the cleanest knockdown or whatever. It might have been momentum and balance and whatever the fuck, but it was a close enough decision and it went Padilla's way. But he still showed vulnerability to the leg kicks. The way he fights long and tall, that's just, I think it's always going to be a natural vulnerability of his on the feet. And I do think it's one that Kyle Nelson could exploit. Kyle Nelson has to either time some well-timed leg kicks to take over the stand-up bout, or go pure wrestling and try to hit well-timed takedowns and stuff the dangerous guard of Fernando Padilla. Because Kyle Nelson, I don't think he's got the jiu-jitsu to go through Padilla's jiu-jitsu like that guy Taliesin Costa did. But I do think he's got the takedowns and the overall savviness, or savvy, I think that is the noun, to stuff the guard of Fernando Padilla. Try to duplicate some of the success Dan Ige had. And I do think Dan Ige is a better fighter than Kyle Nelson. But Kyle Nelson, he's a guy that I think I underrated. He's 14-5-1. He's been finished twice by TKO, once by submission, and lost twice by decision. He lost by TKO to Billy Quarantillo, who got him out of there in round 3. Came close in round 2, but got him out of there in round 3. That's the Billy Quarantillo special. There's no shame in that. Billy's a deceptively dangerous guy with pure head kicks and power shots and whatever. But really, that gas tank, that's enough to get a third-round TKO over most fighters. And Carlos Diego Ferreira got him out of there in round 2 on the ground and pound. Carlos is an excellent, versatile fighter. I think at the time, I'd say he was underrated at the time of that fight. But just a bigger guy. That was a bigger, stronger guy, 155. And Carlos Diego Ferreira, we didn't know he was that good. So it's a little forgivable. His one submission loss comes to Matt Sales with an arm triangle choke in round 2. You know, I do think Fernando Padilla is a very dangerous guy, but in general, he doesn't have the physicality wrestling advantage where he's, you know, I don't envision him being on top too often in any of his fights, but definitely in this one. I think Fernando Padilla is going to be trying to win at range with striking and win on the ground if Kyle Nelson should choose to take it there. I don't think Fernando Padilla is going to be dictating too much in any of his fights, really, with wrestling. You know, it's just not going to be there for him. But Kyle Nelson, he's got good power in his punches. We've seen him knock out Marco Polo Reyes in the UFC, but we've seen him fight hard for 15 minutes. He's scratching card for a draw with Doo Ho Choi, which is pretty cool, even though he should have lost that decision anyway, with or without the foul in round 3. And he also won his last one against Blake Bilder. Which was a really impressive victory, even though Bilder isn't the most established guy himself. But you know what? Neither is Fernando Padilla. So this one here, I'm going with Kyle Nelson. I think Kyle Nelson finds a way to slow down Fernando Padilla and neutralize him. He's got the leg kicks, and of course, even though he doesn't have the speed to really make this work so comfortably, he's got grappling as well in wrestling. I think he's up against it grappling-wise, but wrestling-wise, I think he's got an advantage, and I think he's a good enough grappler to survive with Fernando Padilla. Could be wrong, probably will be, but I'm going with Kyle Nelson. I bet on him by decision at plus 500 and his money line at plus 210, because what the fuck. But yeah, I'm taking Kyle Nelson to tame Fernando Padilla. Not that Fernando Padilla is inexperienced or even young. He's 26 and he's got 20 fights. This will be his 20th fight. But UFC levels and all that horse shit, I'm going with Kyle Nelson. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.